Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Career Hive. It's podcast number 10. Hopefully, everyone is having a good week. The weather looks like it's fantastic, or is fantastic, and hopefully, it'll be the same as we go through to next week. So listen, it's been a good one this week. We've had loads of exciting stuff happening at Future Match. We have just raised another round of another new investor on board. So we're kind of moving forward with our funding round. What does that mean? That means that we can really push hard on our development strategy around getting the product developed and launched in time for October. We've got some really hopeful, fingers crossed, exciting announcements on different things we're doing with organizations coming on board. Hopefully you'll be able to hear more about that if you follow us on our LinkedIn page, as well as on our other socials as well. So what is all about podcast number 10? So I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have someone from the property and construction sector with a main focus on the envelope cladding space, because I think it's a really exciting space and something that we're starting to do some things with organizations in that space, and huge opportunities for early career talent to get involved with some of the exciting apprenticeships that they're developing at level 2, 3, 4 degree level and a master's as well. So I can't wait to share that when that happens. But yeah, let's just keep an eye on that. So we're going to just kind of carry on building on the theme around all things property and construction. I think you've probably seen some stuff we picked up from the last podcast and a lot of stuff happening on our socials. Nuclear engineering is something I wanted to talk about. It's a hard sell to the public. And I thought, yes, it's a hard sell. However, in reality, it seems to be a sector which has a lot of potential, and I've seen it sort of grow over the last 15 to 20 years, and it's worthwhile talking about, because if you're a young person right now and you're considering doing a mechanical electrical engineering apprenticeship and you're thinking, okay, what other sectors are out there, I think it's worthwhile looking at this as another option, because this is a career path that kind of takes you the electrical mechanical engineering background. Also, if you're an individual who has got that qualification and you're kind of thinking, I've graduated, what is out there for me, then this is a potential sector whereby your basics, that degree you've got, that experience and knowledge you've got, is really kind of core to this particular sector. So let's have a look at some of the headline factors, because you always know we start with data, right? So nuclear energy, that's providing around 10% of the world's electricity, and that's for about 440 power stations. So that gives an idea of where we are. In terms of where it fits in the world, it's the largest source of low carbon power, and so kind of 28% of the total, and over kind of 50 countries utilize nuclear engineering. I know there's a variant around, is it really low carbon, because obviously there's waste disposal and all that type of stuff, but this is just what the data says right now. In the UK, 15% of our electricity comes from that, and most of that capacity will be increased over by the next decade. There's new generation and some really exciting projects coming on play. It is at the epicenter of the government strategy. So the aim for the government right now is based on the nuclear energy to provide about 25% of the electricity we have in our households. And look, the industry in terms of growth is already in line to exceed its pre-pandemic levels by 5% next year. So imagine where it was before COVID to where it is right now. There is huge opportunities across the supply chain, which are facing a raft of challenges, but therefore opportunities for growth. And these range from everything. So imagine we're building new nuclear stations. So you got Hinkley Point being one of them. But actually what is happening is there's a decommissioning of the older plants. So again, we're decommissioning to new build. The sector has a challenge in terms of it needs to replace its aging workforce and to kind of build around what are the future kind of workforce looks like and what are the skill shortages there. So if I'm a young person going into the, or in that kind of early careers group looking to go into the sector, how exciting can that be when you know there's a combination of investment, ambition, drive by the government to make nuclear engineering a core part of their kind of kind of power, electricity focus. That as a growth sector, pre-pandemic, it's actually post-pandemic is actually growing at 5%. So that's going to exceed that. So that's a really good opportunity. And then there's an aging workforce. So I'm a young person thinking, so the government's backing this. There's huge opportunities from decommissioning to new build to all these kind of things in the middle. It's got aging workforce coming into play. It's growing kind of from where it was 2.5-3 years ago. Hey, come on, let's have a look at this, right? Because I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and that's what we're all about at Future Matches. How do we kind of enlighten you or empower you or inform you all about really exciting opportunities, and then we can work with those organizations to bring you on board. So, wow. I mean, let's look at careers in nuclear engineering. So nuclear plants can employ approximately 500 to 800 members of staff. When you look at a new nuclear power plants operate for 80 years or more. So hey, I think that in the day and age of careers for life are gone, but being able to know that you've got an 80-year kind of span, I think that's fairly reasonable. We're looking at nuclear power kind of at this moment in time require roughly around 7,000 new staff workers per construction. So every single time they build a nuclear plant, you're looking at 7,000 people that get involved in that particular part. The salaries are 50% higher than any other position or sector. So that gives an idea of the simple demand. And I think there's a challenge for that sector in terms of obviously with loads of career opportunities coming in for STEM graduates and for apprentices and all that type of stuff. I think the challenge is that every young person I've spoken to who is interested in this kind of mechanical engineering background, and I say, would you consider nuclear engineering? The first thing they kind of goes, oh, nuclear, because we have a negative connotation about it, because obviously with the situation happening in Ukraine, we kind of see that as something that could potentially end the world. I kind of laugh about it a little bit by saying, well, I think the Simpsons, Homer Simpson was pretty famous, and Mr. Burns and all those guys were pretty famous from the Simpsons on the back of running a nuclear plant. Not that that's the way to do it, but it shows that this is something that is really available. So I think there's a challenge for that industry around how do we kind of negate what nuclear means to all of us and start to promote it as a career perspective, and also for young early career talent to have that little bit of open mind to say, well, actually, yes, obviously there's a negative element to what this can do, but actually this is the major positive aspect of what we can achieve. So, as I said, loads of career opportunities. So if you're a STEM graduate, these guys are, this sector is looking for that. So mechanical, electrical engineering is a big part. Apprenticeships is everything from level 3 all the way up to the master's apprenticeship. So there's a really good pathway, and so for both, which is amazing, right? So the top 3 careers that we have identified in that particular sector, you got nuclear engineers. So this is kind of nuclear technology continuing to evolve, how power plants operate, the transport services, refineries, nuclear waste, etc. So how exciting is that? So when you look at that, is that nuclear engineering piece has got 3 or 4 different strands that come up out of it. So you're looking at electrical and mechanical engineering, high demand in this particular sector. Starting salaries around £47,000. Yes, that's £47,000. There's obviously tech development advancement. And so you're looking at anybody around the top 10% around can earn anything up to 110,000 per year. So that gives an idea of just what that particular kind of aspect looks like on that basis there. Other roles include commercial engineering, commissioning and decommissioning engineers, planners and scheduling engineers, controlling in instrument engineers, radiation and engineers, reactor operation control engineers. So all these, imagine, I think I was trying to work out actually, as I call it, the Homer Simpson role, and I've got a funny feeling that was kind of the control and instrument engineer, potentially probably the reactor operator as well. So yeah, there's a peripheral roles that need to take place, and this is once the power plant has been built. We have got other things that can take into play. We've got to design and construct what it looks like. We've got to get the planning permission. There's health and safety around it. There's that's the build part of it. There's the HR perspective of it, the operation, the commercial viability. So yeah, you can tell that there's a numerous amount of roles that kind of fit around working in this particular sector. Another one that we've identified, which is the top role, is nuclear scientist. So there's a nuclear physicist and a nuclear chemist. So those, again, really fascinating, really interesting roles, which I'm sure that you're looking at yourself as, oh, I'm a nuclear scientist, I'm going to be a doctor, and so therefore we could tick a lot of those kind of exciting boxes. What I thought was really interesting is one of the third roles that were coming up with clear demand was nuclear software and data specialist. I was like, wow, of course, as I said in many of my talks in companies that we're talking to, data is the new oil, right? It is the currency that's out there. So much data is produced. So look at this. If I'm a data scientist or I'm interested as a data analyst and I'm looking to go into this particular space and I'm doing something completely different, how interesting it is that I can take my skill set and transfer it across. So they're looking at data analysts and software engineers. So that gives you an idea of where we are. And that's kind of, I guess we're talking more around kind of the graduate piece. Apprenticeship wise, you can still do both a nuclear scientist and nuclear engineering. It's an integrated degree. It's a BA qualifications, and it basically is focused around ensuring the system equipment are operating safely and efficiently. You can do a nuclear technician, which is a level 5, and that's kind of tech support to the engineers and scientists. And again, it is when you finish that, you become part of the Science Council for Regulated Scientists, so that's interesting as well. And then you got another level 6, which is a nuclear reactor engineer, which is basically operate, monitor, and control the nuclear reactor and associated equipment in normal operations mode and abnormal. So that is Mr. Homer Simpson's role. But there you go. That's one of the there. Graduates. So again, you can start with an engineering or science-based degree, and so you may have that, but you haven't specialized in what you want to do, and that could be chemical, electrical, or mechanical, and then you can obviously go ahead and specialize in nuclear engineering, and you also got a post-grad qualification if that works. However, if you decide that, actually, I'm not going to take my degree that I started and completed in one particular form of engineering, I want to kind of go straight into nuclear engineering. We kind of had a look through some potential opportunities there. So University of Birmingham does a Bachelor of Science in nuclear science and measurements. It does a MEng in nuclear engineering and an MSc in physics and technology for nuclear reactors. If I'm correct from the top of my head, I remember when University of Birmingham actually started the BSc in nuclear science and measurements, and they couldn't fill the cohort, if I'm correct. And now, if I'm right, there is an oversubscribed subscription to actually get on those courses, hence why they've kind of built those out as well. So that's really, 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 really exciting. Okay. We have other universities. University of Bristol, they do a master's in nuclear science and engineering. The University of Cambridge do a BA in MEng undergraduate in engineering, and they do an MPhil in nuclear engineering as well. The Defence Academy for the UK does a master's in nuclear advanced course. Imperial College in London does an MEng in mechanical and nuclear engineering, chemical and nuclear engineering, material and nuclear engineer, and an MSc in nuclear engineering itself. So there we go. So you can tell there's a lot of opportunities and courses of which to kind of take that qualification formally. As I mentioned, there's apprenticeship levels all the way from level 2 all the way up to level degree apprenticeship and into the PhD as well. And you'll actually find yourself potentially attending one of these many different universities. There's other universities on the list, by the way. We just kind of picked up the ones that we felt had a really good selection, if that makes sense, so they weren't specializing in one or the other. So the marketplace, the kind of sector itself. So listen, nuclear engineering as a whole, where you have a planned growth, you do a bit of scenario planning, and the scenario planning has identified that there is going to be a massive skill shortage. There is a demand for us to be able to achieve the objectives that have been set out. Then there needs to be a piece of recruitment. So the Nuclear Skills Strategy Group, which basically developed a report around the nuclear workforce assessment in 2019. Some of the key facts from that is they forecasted between 3,200 to 4,800 new talent will be needed every year until 2025 to meet the demand for new projects. So that was in 2019. So we know what's happened since 2019 to now. So I would easily say you're probably 2,000 or 3,000 up. I definitely would say that we're nowhere near hitting that target anyway because of the pandemic and what it would have brought to that. 20% of the workforce is female, and the target is for 45% of the workforce within nuclear engineering to be female by 2030. So that's 7 years away, so that's not far away. And the recruitment of at least 50 women is required. 50% women is required for them to be able to hit the skill gap. So out of this 4,800 we're missing, we've got a massive gap. We need to be able to have both male and females in this particular role. So there we go. Graduate salaries, you start off in year 1, 26,000. By the time you get to year 2, you're 27,000. Degree, you're kind of going 18,000 to 19,500, which is about the apprenticeship. So when you look at where you're starting with the apprenticeship, by the time you get to that kind of 3-year, 4-year degree piece and the degree students are coming in, you're going to be on the same kind of salary, possibly even slightly higher. But that is in essence because obviously the route that you've taken. So that is nuclear engineering. I think it's a really, really exciting sector. If I would say to anybody right now, go to the Institute for Apprenticeships and you'll be able to look at what apprenticeship opportunities available and just kind of understand what the scope is, engage with the universities, talk to them, see what they're doing with their program, go and have a look at it, get your pen and paper, do a lot of Google desktop research as well, really get an idea of what does this mean for me. As I said, what's exciting about this sector is it can take you from year 2, from school all the way through level 2, all the way through to when you go to do a degree level apprenticeship, even a master's. And it's a really good university. Bristol's a great city to be out. Birmingham is the place to be. You got Imperial London, we know what London's all about, and we've picked up some of the north as well. So yeah, you can see there's this really, really exciting kind of pathway to get involved in. So that's nuclear engineering. As I said, the excitement is based on the following 3 things, right? There's an aging workforce, so huge opportunities for years early career talent. The government are looking at this as a growth sector for them and really kind of backing nuclear investment and innovation. So there's a huge opportunity not only from the basis of a career that you can stay in, but actually an opportunity to be at the forefront of what I think is another evolution and revolution of how we power our communities and what we use to do that. And of course, what is a kind of dominant piece of what we talked about is what is required in order for you to be successful in these particular roles as well. So remember, nuclear engineering, really exciting. Any information you need, just drop us a message on our socials and we're more than happy to share. And fingers crossed, we've got something in the pipeline with a fairly big nuclear plant development over here, and we're trying to understand where they are in terms of how they bring their talent on board, because they have a massive challenge on that basis. But it's not only them, but it's actually their supply chain as well. So yeah, hopefully this has been really helpful. Please follow us on LinkedIn, like this post. Any questions you've got, always free to ask. Until then, thank you very, very much.